Hello everyone, it's Dr. Bairavee, the Sky Priestess. So today we are going to be looking at our latest installation of Tier-23 between July the 22nd till July the 27th. So to me it felt like July the 22nd needed to be felt rather than intellectualized. So I just kind of let the day unfold as it were. And even though it's already passed, I'm still going to start with that by means of recap, but also to just give you a context for the unfolding of the energies in the rest of the week. So, July the 22nd, let's see. We're still wrapping up from the Capricorn full moon. We see Vesta at 14 degrees of Leo, trine the great attractor, and 14 degrees of Sagittarius. There's a lot of focus on finding what is your path of service and how that aligns with the truth of the heart. A lot of this can also do with contracts to do with children, loved ones, anything you do that is expressive, creative, anything artistic or performance based, or even anything political. It is about the vows that you make at this time or the vows that you walk away from, depending on what it is that actually brings you closer to truth. July the 22nd also saw the Sun at 29 Cancer, trine Neptune at 29 Pisces. So a great upwelling of familial, emotional, psychic, and or karmic patterns or insights that could have arisen, which is why I said this was a day that needed to be felt deeply. July the 22nd also saw Mars trining Mars at between 0 to 1 degrees of Gemini, trining Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and also in a grand add trine with Black Moon Lilith in early Libra. Mars also conjuncted Sedna on the same day. And we've talked about this. It's about how the masculine or active principle needs to take a different path or approach to resolve large scale situations. Reframing of the narrative may be the key in shifting larger patterns of energy. So you look at who you see as the victim, or who you see as the abuser, or how you frame the narrative of how a particular violation or situation of injustice has occurred. And so when you see how those terms can be rewritten in ways that promote greater authenticity and accountability, that is when you get to see greater scope for collective action. And of course, we have recently seen this with the ICJ finally doing something useful and basically telling us all what we already knew, that the taking of Palestinian settlements is against the law. But this reframing is very significant, and we need to continue reframing the narrative, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that actually allows us to put a stop to injustice, imbalance, and situations in which innocents are being harmed and betrayal is being perpetuated. July the 22nd also saw the Sun entering Leo, which is a great alignment. Leo gives us a month long of greater focus on the heart, the inner child, children of all species, matters of love, romance, passion, authenticity, expression, which includes the arts, leadership, performance, and politics. There are so many different things that you can look at, and it is really the month for you to follow your heart and what your heart truly desires. And as I learned from a very wise friend yesterday, sometimes parts of your heart are also not quite the heart that you think it's there. Sometimes it's the heart of an inner child. Sometimes it's a part of your heart you haven't looked at for a very long time. Could be very many things, but this is definitely the time for love in all senses of the term. And love does not always mean cuddly, happy-go-lucky. Love can be fierce, love can be protective, love can be vulnerable, love can be crying your eyes out. Love can be so many different expressions. Sometimes it's being, sometimes it's protection, sometimes it's doing. It just can be so many different ways of being. That's the nature of love. So the Sun entering Leo, we'll stay there for a month. So we have a lot of time to work on this, and I hope we make the most of it. We also see Mercury at 27 degrees of Leo, trine the galactic center. So with Mercury trine the galactic center, the focus is really on how we communicate what our heart truly desires to whatever we consider the larger principle of the universe, or whatever truths by which we live our life. We have to see if our true feelings align with the belief system that we have and the paradigm or perspective that we use to navigate our path. Listen to either sing, speak, listen to, read, or write what brings you true joy and freedom of expression. Observe your kids, your creative collaborators, your loved ones, and create space to share that expression with them and for them to do the same. It's just, this energy is still very much in the skies, but it is really about expressing that authenticity and feeling and allowing that inner child and the children around you to enjoy that too. Yesterday we hung out and we listened to some old songs from my childhood that I used to like, and I didn't listen to much these days. And we were basically, seeing which one of the little fellows liked which type of song, and they all have their own preferences anyway. So that was fun. Moving along to July the 23rd. So, as I said, July the 22nd was about feelings, lots and lots of feelings. July the 23rd is about the Sun at 0 degrees of Leo opposite Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. The truth of the heart will help you break down what blocks you from seeing the larger perspective. But for that, you have to see what the truth of the heart is first. And there are illusions that can come along, especially in matters of love, in matters to do with the inner child, in matters that have to do with your feeling and your expressions and the feel and the free flow of your expressions, especially from a young age. These are things that can create illusions, that can create deceptions, that can create a false perception. But this is where the Sun and Pluto come together and get you to go deeper, to dig, to go further, and to do the work that is actually needed to uncover what is the truth of the heart and what light does that shine on your honest self-perception and being. July the 23rd also sees Venus at 14 degrees of Leo, trining the great attractor, very similar to Vesta. As we saw on July the 22nd, we are going to see Venus and Vesta moving very, very close to each other throughout this period of review. So Venus this time is asking you, what do you need to do? What partnership do you need to create? What expression of beauty, love, romance, what collaboration, what financial decision do you need to make that will bring you closer to your path, your destination, your goal? And how do you do so in ways that encourage joy, fullness of expression, creativity, authenticity, and play? With Venus and Vesta, it's very much an alignment of lay your heart out there. But I would say do that, but as always, be discerning in how you do so and with whom you do so. In some cases, it may be a withdrawal of what you have already committed to, and in other cases, it may be an opening for a potential new commitment. Sometimes both. You might be working both at the same time. So there is a lot about the heart, and that is what is going on, and you have to go with the feeling that your heart has. It may not always be, your perception of it may not always be 100% correct, but it is a better barometer than trying to exclusively think things through. The mind has its wisdom, the heart has its wisdom, and you need to be willing to see both clearly. And that in itself is a challenge and a gift. Moving along, we see July the 24th, where Venus at 15 degrees of Leo conjuncts Vesta. As I said, it is about either making a commitment or dissolving a commitment in matters of joy, creativity, play, marriage, romance, creative expression, arts, politics, leadership, performance, and sisterhood. It is very much where you look at the collaborations, the people that surround you and how you relate to them, and how they actually inspire you to more authentically embody your heart center. Now, this can be a huge energy for people who are in relationships, people who are in love. And, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some among you who were deciding to take things a step further in solidifying your commitments if things have been going on a steady footing all of this time. For some, it can be a joyful union, and for others, the realization that some commitments must be let go of to find the true heart once more, which can be very painful. So, depends on where you are, but these are important alignments. On the same day, we see Venus at 15 degrees of Leo with Vesta, trine Okiro at 15 degrees of Aries. Now, Okiro would have just stationed retrograde a few hours before this particular alignment goes exact. The commitment you make or break at this time will help you unravel another layer of the truth of yourself. Do not hold on to who you see yourself as being, but allow yourself to let go of that conception to find the truth. So the decisions that you are making at this time will also be revelatory to the quality of who you are as a being, your fundamental essence. And if you are unclear as to what to let go of or what to bring into your life, look at what actually brings you closer to your truth, and that will give you the answer. Sometimes those you love will help you see that inner truth more clearly. More power to those relationships. Sometimes those you believe you love may hook you into a false sense of self and other perception. Love can liberate, But the idea of love, as opposed to love itself, can cause profound illusions. By profound, I don't mean great in a good way, I mean just like huge. So you got to be very careful with the lens through which you look at whatever questions are coming up at this time. Is it really love, love of self, love of other, or is it the ideal of love itself rather than the actual person or people involved in this? Whatever you do, choose the path that brings you back to a deeper, truer layer of yourself. That doesn't mean that you have to go at it solo. Sometimes it means bringing in the right people and keeping out the not so aligned people. Moving along, we see Mars at 2 degrees of Gemini, trine Black Moon Lilith at 2 degrees of Libra. Now, we've been talking about this in previous installations as well, because we've been seeing Black Moon Lilith and Pluto and Sedna and everybody activated. But in this case, with Mars in the mix, you got to look at how the masculine recognizes the injustices perpetuated towards the feminine and how this is communicated and understood or not. It is a good time to reach out and address what needs to be recognized, especially for those who have been oppressed or neglected. Remember that this is a grand air trine, Pluto in Aquarius and Sedna in Gemini. Your expression and embodied action can do so much to transform things. Just be prepared to shift perspective from the old narratives and binaries that have kept us all trapped within something that has not been just for thousands of years. We have to rewrite the script. If the script keeps saying that the way things are is okay, no one is going to do anything. So we have to flip the script. And that applies in personal life. It also applies to political matters and just about anything right now. Moving along to July the 25th. July the 25th, this time we see Vesta trined Okiro. It's the same alignment as before with Venus. What are you committing to? What are you walking away from? And does it actually take you closer to the truth of who you are? Sometimes you just have to show up to a situation and accept the free will of each individual involved. You can't be holding on to it if someone decides to go one way. But if two people decide to come together in a very powerful union of truth, this can be a blessing for relationships. But if people come together to hide from each other, then not so great. So you may actually be better off alone in that case. But it really depends. It depends on the willingness to see truth, the willingness to uncover these layers of self that have kept you hidden from your own understanding, and the willingness to see if you need to do this with another person. It may not always refer to romance. Sometimes it can be partnership. Sometimes it can be your interactions with people with whom you have a very tender, delicate relationship. Sometimes it's also the level of investment and care you put into your kids. It also depends on their free will and how they choose to interact with you. So, there's so many ways that this can play out. And again, in matters of politics, art, performance, leadership, other types of expressive activities, it is also about what you show, what you give, and how you interact with others who are receiving that energy. Are you leading people in a way that actually allows you to come to a deeper path of your own truth? Or are you hiding in the hype of the rhetoric and how good it may feel, being in that position of authority? There's so many ways this can play out. Now, also on the same day, we see Venus at 16 degrees of Leo with Vesta, opposite Psyche at 16 degrees of Aquarius. And you should know my thoughts about Psyche at this point. Consider the larger heroine's journey, or whatever epic narrative you have about the path of ascension of the feminine. Look at what old scripts you may still be following that leave the feminine's path at the mercy of benevolent patriarchs, whether it's the story of Psyche in the myth, whether it's the story of Shiva Parvati, it's the same thing. You need to find different ways to conceptualize the feminine awakening on her own terms. And that does not mean that she needs to be solitary. She can be doing so with community, with loved ones, but she needs to awaken in a way that is actually true to her and not following the ideals of something that is obsolete. Moving along, we also see the Sun at 2 degrees of Leo on the same day, sextiling Black Moon Lilith at 2 degrees of Libra. The yacht forms at 2 degrees of Pisces if you have anything near there. Consider what insights Mercury, Pluto, and Sedna have been bringing forth with Black Moon Lilith in Libra, and the need for justice, balance, fairness, and true harmony. Consider how these insights can be creatively expressed with your loved ones, kids, creative collaborators, and so on. Art, including oration, can be especially transformative at this time. It can be deeply inspiring, so do not underestimate the power of your expressions and creations. We also see at the same time Mercury at 29 degrees of Leo in conjunct Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces. Karmic matters may come up to do with the heart and its modes of expression. So look at what you are expressing at this time. What is it triggering? What old pattern is it bringing up? And what are you inspired to do about this? That one, it can be anything. This is too broad to generalize, but this is the best way that I can kind of summarize it. So look at your communication, look at your relationship and articulation of your heart and innermost expression, and look at what energetic, psychic, or karmic dynamics emerge from that. You may also want to pay attention to what is happening in your psychic field, what your psychic impressions are guiding you to see, or what is coming up in the dream time. That is also significant. Now, also on the same day, we see Mercury entering Virgo. Now, because this is happening prior to the start of the retrograde, this is actually happening 3 times. So it's happening on July the 25th. And then as it retrogrades, it'll be back there on the 15th of August. And one more time, it'll go direct, back on 0 degrees of Virgo on the 9th of September. So that's 25th July, 15th of August, 9th of September. So whatever you are working on now is going to have to be fine-tuned as part of the upcoming Mercury retrograde, which begins on August the 5th. And remember that the retrograde will mostly be in Leo. So whatever projects you're starting now, be it in work, health, work-life balance, service, organization, will probably need to be reworked multiple times. I would say avoid starting anything out of the blue at this time. If you've already had a plan in position, then go forward with that. But I would say if you don't have anything running at the moment, just focus on stock taking, perfecting, refining, purifying what you do have. Work with what you got at the minute would be my general advice on how to best work with this energy. Now, moving along, we see July the 26th. July the 26th, we see the Sun at 3 degrees of Leo, sextile Mars at 3 degrees of Gemini. So again, this gives us more opportunities to express and vocalize the insights from Sedna, Pluto, Black Moon, Lilith. These are all profound energies for a collective shift in narrative. Just do your part. You don't need to do too much. Do your part and let the sum of everybody's efforts work their magic together. Do your part and leave it at that. Have a good night's sleep once you've done your part. Now, July the 26th, we see Chiron stationing retrograde at 23 degrees of Aries. This is not a bad thing. It just means that there are more opportunities to go inwards and to look at the reasons behind our perceptions of vulnerability, inadequacy, or blind spots in our awareness of selfhood. Remember that you do not need to bleed in order to heal yourself or others. There are more compassionate ways, but they require you to show up with compassion for yourself first. And again, kudos to a friend of mine who helped me remember this lesson yesterday as well as I was focusing on my own process and journey. July 26, we see Vesta at 16 degrees of Leo opposite Psyche at 16 degrees of Aquarius. We've already talked about this. Please take care as to which narrative of feminine empowerment, growth, ascension, etc. that you want to commit to. Some of you may need to walk away from outdated narratives to find true freedom. Remember that freedom doesn't mean that you have to be solitary, but a relationship or connection that actually allows you to grow is one that allows you to feel that freedom with the security of that relationship. If it's something that's going to clip your wings or force you to be somebody that you are not, or force your trajectory in a way that is not natural for you, then that is an issue. So this isn't about, do I have to do everything by myself, or can I be with someone or be with communities? There's no either or there. It is about which path actually allows you to come to the innermost truth of yourself, to evolve in the way that is most aligned to your highest and deepest good, and therefore to the highest and deepest good of all. This is part of a larger evolutionary pattern. So, it's kind of bird's eye view thinking versus immediately just responding to the here and now. Also on the same day, we see the Aries moon will be activating Vesta, Venus, and Psyche. So there is a big focus on, again, the truth of the self, knowing that the self does not exist in isolation, but you must decide how you wish to best access that inner truth. Now, moving along on the same day, we see Juno at 25 degrees of Virgo in conjunct Eris at 25 degrees of Aries. The yod points for this form at 25 Scorpio or 25 Aquarius. This is the reminder that soulmate connections may trigger your innate sense of right and wrong, especially if there is a trespass or a violation present. The way you navigate this will have a big impact on the journey ahead. If your soulmate connection is trying to wind you up just so you go into a space of rage, not the best idea. But if they are someone who can actually hold space for you while you process what is going on, that is much, much healthier. You just got to see if these connections are just trying to trigger you into a space of charging into things like a bull seeing red or not. And if that is not present, hopefully they will be more helpful, supportive, and nurturing. And remember, this can also work both ways. You may be triggering people in certain ways without even knowing it. Now, moving along to July the 27th. Let's see. Here we see Venus at 18 degrees of Leo with Vesta in conjunct Saturn at 18 degrees of Pisces. I know we've been talking a lot about love and a lot about relationships, but this is the time for it. Relationship karma or key long-term decisions or both may be needed to be made at this time or needed to be resolved at this time. They're probably both working in tandem. So there are certain long-term decisions that you may need to think about, that you may need to either commit to or walk away from to help you deal with a certain karma that you may be dealing with a key relationship in your life. And again, it may not just refer to romance. It can also refer to the way that more broadly, how you represent the feminine in matters of love, creativity, arts, politics, joy, and authentic expression. Observe what is going on with the significant female or female presenting beings in your life, and if that includes you, observe what is going on with you as well. Look at what you are being asked to either commit to or walk away from. Consider what kind of adjustments do you need to make things work, or whether or not these adjustments are appropriate or needed in the first place. It's all about karma, and it's all about relationship and matters of the heart at this time. Politically, it can certainly also have to do with a lot of adjustments at the collective level. It can also be an alignment that does inspire artistic creativity, but again, it will require some adjustment to make things more practical and more workable. If you have anything near 18 degrees of Capricorn, that will form a yod. The other yod is present, and let me just think this through real quick. Should be 18 degrees of Libra. So if anything near 18 degrees of Libra, and I'll double check that later, or 18 degrees of Capricorn, this should create a very, very powerful impulse for you to make certain key decisions, again, with respect to relationship and karma in general. I know it sounds vague, but it covers a lot of areas in life, a lot of things. Just pay attention. Now, also on the same day, we see Mercury at 0 degrees of Virgo in conjunct Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. This is an alignment that's going to be repeated. So it's happening on the 27th of July. It's going to be repeated on the 14th of August when Mercury is in retrograde at 0 degrees of Virgo. And one more time on the 9th of September, this time with Mercury at 29 Leo and Pluto at 29 Capricorn. So 25th of July, 14th of August, and 9th of September. Whatever you are working on, you're going to be tweaking and retweaking again and again and again. In fact, there are other bodies that are also going to be making these aspects. Venus and the Moon will aspect Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius from 0 degrees of Virgo on August 5th. The Sun will do the same on August 22nd. Vesta will do the same on August 25th. Mars will do the same at it's in conjunct at 29 Gemini with Pluto at 29 Capricorn on September the 4th. So there is just a lot of focus on in conjuncts, tweakings that need to happen with respect to whatever it is we are doing with Pluto at this time. So it's not an isolated alignment, but the opportunity to keep fine-tuning our relationship with the collective and the ways in which we practice and exercise our will in alignment with higher principles and truly altruistic goals. It can be a good time to work on discerning through and developing networks, tools, and matters of health and friendship. And of course, with Venus, then it's going to be about relationships. With the Sun, it's going to be about your focus on health and management. With Vesta, it's going to be about commitments and service. With Mars, it's going to be about the masculine and your connection to the masculine. These are all different levels and layers, lenses through which you're going to be refining your expression of Pluto. So look at what comes up, look at the challenges that present themselves to you at this time. Look at the tools that you are using to rise to these challenges. I know this is a lot of information. You can refer to this also in the write-up so that you can mark these dates down in your calendar. Also on July the 27th, we see Pholus at 7 degrees of Capricorn, trine Eros at 7 degrees of Virgo. Honestly, this is the only red flag alignment in this particular installation in my book, because Eros can just bring up this deep and powerful feelings of desire. Whether they're actually your desire or whether they're the byproduct of some spiritual shenanigan or your own unresolved karma is a different matter. And of course, Eros in Virgo is very powerfully pulling people in the name of service, in the name of duty. For some people, it can be an obsessive focus on, oh God, I gotta focus on my health, even if you're not really that bad. For other people, it may be this compulsion to clean or, organize space in a way that goes a little over the top. Eros is basically just any very, very powerful desire. And within balance, that's great. But when it becomes too much of a compulsion, it becomes an issue. So Eros at 7 degrees of Virgo, trining Pholus at 7 degrees of Capricorn, can bring up a very volatile combination. Because what is Pholus? Pholus is linked with outbreak, with contagion, with rapidly moving currents of energy that cannot be predicted. In Capricorn, it has to do with capitalism. It has to do with patriarchy. It has to do with entrenched authority figures. It has to do with networks of power that have holding on to the old status quo a lot of the time. So when you have Pholus and Eros together, you get a recipe for getting knocked out, either physically or energetically, if you step into something collective that is much larger than yourself. And so you need to be very careful with who or what you engage with at this time, especially if you're doing any public or political work. Remember, Eros can show you what is true intimacy, but only if it is not acting as a karmic hook or a flash in the pan. Understand the need behind the drive and act accordingly. Sidestep these larger energies that are just looking for a punching bag in the way, because taking that hit does not accomplish anything. Move out of the way and let these rapidly shifting energies be directed to spirit and get on with your day. Get on with your day. Now, also on the same day, we see Mercury again at 1 degrees of Virgo, squaring Sedna at 1 degrees of Gemini. We're wrapping up with this one. Continue working with the voice, the body, the breath, the will, the mind to find better ways to organize and manage your space, time, and health. Don't go overboard, because Eros is already hitting the Virgo button. Whilst it is important to heal and where possible to help others heal, ensure you do so in ways that do not create old patterns of sacrifice and betrayal. So in other words, help where it is sustainable. Help in a way where you are being healed and fairly compensated. Help in a way where the other person is not being dependent on you. Help in a way that is not creating any dynamics of hidden control or pedestalization. There are so many ways, so many factors that you need to take into account. And one thing that will help you think these things through is to look at what are the hidden narratives, what are the hidden patterns that are being continued by the way you are helping and healing at this time or not. So this is also a way to go back to Sedna's lessons. Who has been betrayed? What is the story that has been told? How is that trauma being carried through the narrative? Look at that vis-a-vis your healing practice, or how you even receive healing or give healing or organization or whatever it is you're working on with Virgo right now, and you may find some new answers. So I hope this gives you insight as to what is occurring over the next few days and gives you the focus that you need, or rather a refinement of the focus that you need to make the most of this energy. Take care. Very many blessings. Ciao, ciao for now. Bye-bye.